Last July, I started having this funny dream. I'll tell you all about it, but first I've got to tell you about the video shop. When I was little, I used to play footy. My team trained on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the field by Boamby Creek. I can still remember the smell of trodden grass and the feeling of cold air on my cheeks. It was Dad's job to pick us up from the footy field. But he didn't always take us straight home. Every now and then he'd turn to me and say, "Listen, mate, I've got to stop into the pub for a bit and see a bloke. I'll only be half an hour." I didn't mind at all. I actually quite liked it because Dad had given me $2 for a drink. I wasn't allowed in the pub though. I had to wait outside in the car park. It took a while to decide what to spend my $2 on. Usually, I'd buy a can of yellow fizzy drink from the chicken shop next to the pub. The staff at the chicken shop served a lot of scabby little pub kids. They didn't look me in the eye. I remember this one kid whose mum had given him $20 to buy dinner, and he'd spent the lot on a half-kilo block of chocolate. I was jealous of that kid. So anyway, I sat in the front seat of the car, and I drank the can quite quickly. As the sun set, the cold started to creep into my legs and I'd get bored. There's an old street directory and a grubby blanket in the boot. The book smelled like cold sausages and the blanket smelled like cat wee, but they helped pass the time. Then after a while I'd hear footsteps on the bitumen, jangle of keys, the clunk of the car door opening, and Dad'd get in the car. On this one particular occasion, things went differently though. He looked at me and he said, "I've got a job for you. Grab a piece of paper and a pen out of my bag. I want you to run across the road to the video shop and make me a list. I want a list of 50 good movies that you haven't seen. That way I'll know which ones to rent and we can watch them together." I really liked Dad's plan. I still don't know how he came up with it though, or why. I really loved the video shop. I was really little, you know, I hadn't seen many movies at the time, but I could spend hours in there just looking at the covers of the videos. In my imagination, all movies were as good as Ghostbusters. So I announced my project to Ben Wooten, who worked the front desk at Toormina Video. Ben Wooten didn't seem very impressed. And then I got to work. At the top of the list was a James Cameron movie. I actually had seen that one before, but most of the films on the list I hadn't seen, I promise. Some of them were forgettable. Others were classics. There are a few I thought Mum might disapprove of. And I picked a few just because they had funny shaped boxes. And I even threw in one that I thought Dad would like. To this day, the list remains one of the coolest projects I've ever been given. I was curating 6 months of Sunday afternoons with the old man. I loved stories that came in a plastic box. Dad liked his, carried on an old bloke's breath. So anyway, I finished the list. I realised I'd been at Toormina Video for well over an hour and I just left. I didn't even hire a video. And then I did something I'd never done before. The smell inside the pub was really unfamiliar to me. Now I realise that it's the same as the smell inside any pub, but I can still remember that one. I found Dad sitting at a table with a bunch of strange men. They looked me in the eye. I didn't really have to say anything. Dad knew. As we drove through Toormina to our house, I read through the list. I didn't get I didn't get very far though. I stopped before I got halfway. He wasn't really listening. When we got home, Mum didn't ask why we were so late. But then she found the list months and months later, she found the list on a pile of papers next to the phone, and she was like, "Pat, what is this? Do you want this?" I didn't really want it. We hadn't hired any of the movies on the list yet. We hadn't watched one of them. We hadn't watched one movie together. So a month after that, Dad fell off a stool at a footy club barbecue. 2 months after that, he taught me how to make curried sausages. Secret is to boil the sausages first. 38 months after that, he fell asleep next to the heater and burned his leg. 49 months after that, he tried to top himself. 8 months after that, he drove the red car into a ditch. 12 months after that, he went on a bender so bad he got brain damage. 5 months after that, he was transferred from hospital to a nursing home. 24 months after that, my mum fell in love with someone else. 9 months after that, Dad got locked in the crazy ward. He didn't get locked in there because he was particularly crazy. He got locked in because he kept smuggling goon bags into his room. 39 months after that, he shat himself at a Father's Day barbecue. 9 months after that, I had the dream, and I started drawing this story. And then, 4 days after that, my dad died. He was waiting for a nurse to bring him a glass of white wine. So I had about 6 pages of the comic drawn before that night. And when I started it, I thought it would take me a week. It was this kind of throwaway story about a dream. But then the phone rang and the story became something else. The old bloke's gone, but the dream's still with me, and I've got to figure out how to finish the story. Mum met us at the airport with a red car. We had some errands to run. The first job was to clean out Dad's room at the nursing home and eat all his minties. I went straight for the bookshelf, and on the bookshelf I found this DVD that I bought him the previous Christmas. He told me on 3 separate occasions that he'd watched that DVD. He told me that he thought it was really terrific, but it was still wrapped in plastic. I really loved that DVD. I was kind of hoping he'd love it as much as I did. Mum said he didn't even know how to work the DVD player. My first thought when I saw him lying there in the coffin was that he looked like a bad waxwork version of Saruman from Lord of the Rings. But when I kissed his forehead and squeezed his hands, they felt just like I remembered, only cold. And then there was the funeral, and I don't really have much to say about the funeral. What do you say about a funeral? I drank whiskey at the wake. And I still haven't told you about the dream, have I? Here we go then. So in the dream, there's this little girl. She's sitting in the front seat of a champagne-coloured Camry. She's drinking a can of yellow fizzy drink. And the car is in a cold car park outside this big building. The little girl's sitting there. She's bored, she's cold, she's waiting for someone. She's waiting for me. And I am sitting inside the big building at a tilted table, warm under the lamplight. drawing comics.